You're listening to a fight against free kill laws from AMP Media Production Studio.
Welcome to the Fight Against Free Kill Laws with Ed Salazar, where we give a voice to those who have suffered firsthand from medical malpractice. In Florida, families devastated by medical negligence are left without justice because of a law many don't even know exists. Florida's free kill law prevents families from holding doctors accountable. These are real stories with real loss and no justice. Contact Ed at 561-239-2417 or visit afreekill.com. Today we uncover the truth, share real stories, and demand change.
Good evening, friends, and welcome again. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to our program. We have another very, very powerful story, yet another victim of medical negligence in the state of Florida, and another family that has to deal with this horrible law that we call the free kill laws. Our guest is Travis Creighton. Can we bring Travis in, please? Hey, Travis.
Hey, Ed. Hi, Ed.
And right now, in fact, you live in the Sarasota area, correct?
Tampa.
Tampa. All right. Yep. And you have driven up to Tallahassee, where you are right now, and you will be attending a legislative session tomorrow.
Correct. House Bill 6003.
Very good. Very good. Well, I applaud you and everyone else that is up there to represent us for this cause. So in your family's case, we're going to talk about what happened with your mother. Tell us a little bit about your mother. And can we bring up that first picture, please?
Mother was a wonderful mom. She was very caring. She was a stay-at-home mom. So grew up very attached to her. She was an organist for our church for my growing up years, and was a wonderful grandmom to my children. Raised my brother and sister to be awesome people, and a loving wife to my dad.
The picture that we have up right now, that's your father, your mother,
and my two daughters, Emily on the ground and Christina on my shoulders.
It's a wonderful family. You can see there's a lot of love there. Okay, now you have incredible notes. I was looking over all the data you sent me. My gosh, we're going to try to break it down here in a manageable timeline. So, on 9/19, your mother called you, telling you that she thought she might be having a heart attack.
Correct. About 3:09 in the morning, I received a phone call. It says Brett. She called me by my middle name. I think I'm having a heart attack. I need to go to the hospital. I live about 5 miles away, so I quickly go over there, pick her up. She's waiting for me at the garage. We're not even in the driveway 15 seconds, and we're on the way to the hospital. We're there very, very quick.
Okay. And on arrival to the emergency department, how'd things go?
They did the triage, started doing, the typical vitals, and come to me to do the admissions, and everything goes smooth, and then we wait. It becomes a waiting game after that.
But did they acknowledge, did the nurses, the physicians, they acknowledge that, your mother most likely had a very serious situation?
Well, they can't say anything until they get the second round of troponin test. They're looking for the cardiac enzymes to elevate, to see where they're at. So until that second test is run, it's just speculation. They have the initial one, the levels were low. So I guess that, if they were high, they probably would have known right away, but they were still low at that time, that initial test. So they had to wait to see if they would elevate or not. And they did.
So when they decided that she should be admitted, what was the prescribed course of action?
Well, they put us in general population, I guess. Nothing critical care or whatever that I could say. I based that on the fact that there was a transfer order that came later for the PCU, which is Progressive Care Unit. And at the same time, there was a two-part order for heparin consisting of a bolus and a drip. And about that time, within 12 hours of being at the hospital, the first adverse medical incident occurred. And that consisted of the pharmacy rejecting the doctor's order for the heparin because the doctor overprescribed it. And it took 3 hours, over 3 hours, almost 4, to have that order corrected just so it could be administered.
So the order was for a heparin bolus to be followed by a maintenance drip, correct?
Correct.
But,
2 parts. Step
but
1 was the
but that's
bolus.
not what happened.
Correct. Step 1 was the bolus to give immediate relief. Step 2 was the drip to maintain therapeutic levels. And what the nurse did that reported the doctor for the adverse incident, reported the adverse incident, she administered the step 2 drip before the bolus. So my mom had to wait an hour, how long it takes for the drip to finish, before she got the real bolus to start kicking things off in terms of relief. Now, the nurse did not file another adverse incident report on herself for that error. And the important thing is heparin, when you start it, stop it, or change it, you have to have a witness. And so the witness and the administrating nurse both made the error of reversing the order of step 1 with step 2, and then both of them failed to report it to risk management, who then failed to report it to the physician or the patient. And it says it right there on the very first adverse incident order, the physician was not notified.
Okay, well, she finally gets to the room, but she doesn't go to progressive care unit. She goes to a med surg floor.
Correct. She goes to whatever your basic level floor is. Yes.
Yeah, but was she being monitored? Were they at least monitoring her?
There was telemetry being done, but I could see PVCs occurring, and I raised question of them, but for the number of PVCs that I saw, they weren't showing up in that frequency in the medical chart. So I might see them continuously throughout the day, but I only see 1 or 2 instances in the medical chart regarding those. So
Okay,
I don't know what their algorithm is for recording that.
So day 1, she's in the med surg floor, but on telemetry. Okay, day 2, 9:20. Have they gotten to doing any more diagnostic studies yet?
They did send her to the cath lab, and that is where they determined that she had a 99% occlusion of the LAD, lower
Left
anterior descending.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And that I found out later is commonly called the widowmaker,
Right.
which it was never described in that manner to my wife, to my mom, of how serious it was. When the doctor, I'm getting ahead, but when the doctor goes to get consent, never once describes it as a widowmaker, just describes it as, it's serious, but nothing more than that.
Okay, so she has very, very serious coronary artery disease. They now the plan is to send her for coronary artery bypass.
Right. The plan is to perform a cabbage surgery, Lehman to Ladd, 1 time, and she signs a consent for surgery, but that consent is never acted upon by the doctor whose name is on the consent. Instead, they end up delaying it for 3 or 4 more days before the surgery actually occurs. Additionally, they never pulled my mom's medical history from USF Health, which is directly across the street from the hospital. And my mom, 4 months prior, had a full cardiac panel, a stress test done. And so all her recent records were right there and available, and they never pulled them.
So now, now we're into day 3.
Okay, well, we're kind of one important part is the all the records for the drip. They are indicated as being performed for like 7 hours for one order, 10 hours for another. They were all entered within a 2-hour period of being performed. So if the medical record is to be taken as being accurate, the nurse performed 10 hours worth of dosing of heparin in a 2-minute period and never filed adverse incident reports about them. Okay, so now we're on a big hurry up and wait. We're there. My mom and I are joking about did they forget us or not, because so much time has gone by with no one entering the room. This would probably be the time where the drip was being done, but the nurse was never doing her hourly rounds, and so she was getting paid for not actually doing her work. Because I ended up having to call my sister when my mom's chest started hurting again because I
And
couldn't
your
find a
sister's
nurse.
a nurse?
My sister at the time was an Army nurse up in Augusta.
I see.
So I called her.
All right. So they get her into surgery. They perform the bypass operation. She's in ICU, and I think we're in what the 5th day of the hospitalization.
Right on the 5th day, the 23rd, the day she died, sometime between the stop of surgery and just after arrival in the PACU, she has apnea. She stops breathing. And after that point, they still decide to extubate her. And in the medical record, it's extubated outside of parameters.
And it says that.
It says that. Well, they abbreviate parameters, PARM, but yes, extubated out of PARM. And I'm taking that to be parameters. And in the medical record, there's no entry for spontaneous breathing trial and spontaneous awakening trial, SBT and SAT.
So
Those metrics don't exist prior to extubation.
and those are standard procedures used to evaluate whether someone can be safely extubated from the ventilator.
Correct. And if they fail those trials, you wait a certain amount of time and then you do the test again.
Right.
I actually filed an HHS OCR complaint, and that trickled down to ACA, and ACA did their investigation, and I got a blank protocol page on the extubation protocol, post-cardiac. And at the very bottom, I didn't send this to you, and I'm kicking myself now. It says, do not scan into chart. A clear violation of HIPAA. An absolute clear violation of HIPAA right there on the document. And it's got the patient information, so you got the PHI, and you got the parameters that you're supposed to record. So it's got the medical information. It qualifies as a HIPAA record, and it states not to scan in the chart.
Well, I'm unfortunately, my family is familiar with this type of baloney. We had a similar situation happen when we requested medical records for our son's case. Okay, so tragically, your mother continues to decline. They order TEE, transesophageal echo, right?
Yes.
And
correct.
During this diagnostic test, she codes.
Right. Well, I guess the test is ordered because of the code. They had originally ordered an X-ray, but I guess because of events, they then changed it to a T as part of the advanced life-saving process. And my research on that shows there's about 22 standardized images that's taken to get a full view of the cardiac area. And I only have 18. And if you look at the serialization of the images, there's 4 missing.
Yeah, I saw that.
And
No
so I've been trying to
explanation
get
for no explanation for those views not being there, correct?
correct, no explanation. And interesting, if you look at those views, you'll see one view is totally of no data, yet they retained it. So if you're deleting images because they're bad, why would you retain that other image that has absolutely no data in it?
Okay, so your mother is having serious chest pain. They admit her. They order interventions, heparin therapy. It's that order is mishandled. There's a delay in getting her into the proper nursing unit. There's a delay in getting her into the cath lab. When she goes to the cath lab and they have documentation that she has serious coronary artery disease, now there's a delay actually getting her to surgery to repair.
Well, the surgery was performed as scheduled on the second time, but not the first time.
Right.
Because on the first or second day we did the consent, and that doctor, I guess, had golf to play or something, I don't know. But on Friday, he was no longer available. So then a second cardiac had to do an interview with the patient within, say, 24 hours. That was done in the 11th or the 23rd hour. And then that delayed further because now they scheduled the second surgery that actually occurred. You know, I thought hospitals were 24/7. You know, I don't know why there was such a delay. But the thing about the transfers is the first transfer was never performed to the progressive care unit. That was issued on the first day at the time the heparin was done. And while it's marked completed, it was not the transfer that was actually done. Another transfer on the 22nd superseded the first one to transfer to the exact same unit, the PCU. So if the first one was done, there was no need for the second one. So the second one existing is proof the first one didn't happen. Then if you look at the medical billing, the hospital billed for the 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd, I think, at the lower rate, and on the final day they billed at the higher rate. So that was, I believe, to avoid a False Claims Act violation, which is federal law. But in the medical record, they're off by 1 day. And I think all that was done to avoid having to report the adverse incidences to ACA, because a trigger for reporting to ACA is a requirement to transfer a patient to a higher unit of care. And the only way to resolve a failed transfer is to perform a transfer, which would naturally be a higher unit of care. So by them addressing the real transfer, the second one, crediting the first one, it looks to ACA or in the medical record like, oh, no, we transferred right away.
But
it just doesn't make
happen.
sense. That did not happen.
How many requests did you place for records?
Many. I had to pull teeth to get records. Very early on, I exercised my right to request records. The hospital gave me some. They then gave me a letter on the 19th of October, I think it was, that I received all the records they had. Going through that record, I could see page 1 of 2, page 2 of 2. In some instances, page 3 of 3 was missing, but I had 1 and 2 of 3. So there were pages missing. The cabbage T was missing. The 4 images from the T during the code, that was missing. So I started asking for these specifically, I filed an HHS OCR complaint, and they had the regional compliance officer for the hospital chain attest to CMS that all the records were given. Well, come to find out, I filed another HIPAA request with a third-party processor. They received it, and they gave me new records on 12/18 of 2023 when my mom died on 9/23 of 2019. So those records I received outside of HIPAA. Those were the medical, what was it? The test reports.
The diagnostic studies.
Right. Those I received years later, and inside those, there's an entry for auto release, and the date for the auto release was 2 years and 2 days after my mom's death. So the 2 years to me means statute of limitations. The 2 days pushes it to Saturday. So you'd be unable to do anything because it's a Saturday with an attorney.
Right.
You'd have to wait till Monday. That's my interpretation of it. But why would you have an auto release date that prevents the release of records until this date unless a physician overrides the auto release date? That brings up a whole nother situation of the subpoenas that ACA and DOH filed when they were servicing my complaints. Did those subpoenas get all the records, or were they also excluded from receiving the records that I was excluded from receiving? Because if so, their investigations didn't have all the data. If they did receive those records and I did not, then it's willful withholding of the records. Violation of state and federal law, in my opinion.
Now, when I was looking through your notes, I thought that I saw that you had evidence that entries were made after the fact, that things weren't done in real time.
That would be like the transfer, because if you look at the nurses that was servicing my mom when she initially was admitted, the same nurses were taking care of my mom after the transfer was completed. So nurses don't transfer to different units and stay with the patient. You would see a different nurse.
Right.
But after this transfer was marked completed, the same nurse is taking care of my mom. So how could that be? One of those two has got to be wrong. So you just can't do it.
Travis, so you've got all sorts of evidence that there were serious inconsistencies and breaches of protocol. You have a clear case, and now you try to go to a lawyer, and what happens?
You can't get past the triage questions. How old was your mom? Was she married? Were there any children under the age of 25? We're sorry, we can't help you. And then they give you a bar referral to find another attorney, but they won't tell you why. It took a long time for me to find an assistant of an attorney who would tell me why about the statute. And then I quickly received a letter, informing me that they weren't representing me. And I get that. Attorneys, they got to be careful about representation. So if they don't say anything, there's no worry of representation. But if they give you any kind of information about what's going on and why they can't help you, that could be seen as representation, I'm assuming, which is why I received the letter saying I wasn't being represented by them. And it's just horrible.
So this was how long ago?
2019, September.
No. I mean, when you were trying to get legal representation.
Oh, day or so, week after my mom's death. Once I got the medical records and I had something to hand off, that's when I started looking. But it took months for me to just figure out what was going on and discover the statute. I went all up and down the coast, went across to the other side of Florida, calling phone numbers and such.
Yeah, it's the same over here. Trust me.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you've got no legal recourse. How did you find out about Florida Medical Rights Association?
Well, once this one attorney assistant, paralegal, I'll say, pointed me to the statute, that's when it gave me something to search for. That's how I found Florida Medical Rights Association. And at the time, Melody McDonald was running it. She had started it. And I thank her profusely and continuously for that organization, because that gave me the information I needed to comprehend what was going on and allowed me to figure out a way to try to either correct the system or to fight the system.
Well, you're fighting the fight, and I know you're in Tallahassee right now. Do you have any idea who else is going to be there with you?
Not at this time. No, I'm sure there's going to be advocates here. I didn't advertise that I was coming up today, so no one really knows. And so there's nothing to respond to say, hey, I'll see you up there. But I'm sure there's going to be people here.
And when is the introduction or the review of 6003? When is that going to happen?
It's the House Judiciary Committee meeting, and I think it's at 1:30 tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they're holding it.
Well, Godspeed. God be with you. And just know that everyone over here has got your back, and we'll be waiting to hear. We'll be waiting to hear.
I pray I have good news to report back to you.
Well, I hope you do.
I pray I have good news. Yep.
Okay. Well, our profuse thanks to Travis Crichton for joining us. We ask all of you to continue to follow these podcasts. Please like, share, follow. The FloridaFreeKill.com is a place you can go if you want to help. If you'd like to help in this cause, please go to that website and you can see the instructions on what you can do to help. Any help is appreciated. And we thank all of you for your interest, and we thank all of you for helping to spread the word.
Thank you for watching The Fight Against Free Kill Laws with Ed Salazar, where we interview those who have dealt firsthand with medical malpractice. Families are devastated by medical malpractice and left with no justice. This isn't just a loophole. It's a failure to protect the ones we love. It's time to change the law. It's time for accountability. Contact your state legislatures, visit afreekill.com for more information on how to help, or contact Ed at 561-239-2417. Because every life should matter.
You're listening to A Fight Against Free Kill Laws from AMP Media Production Studio.